de icono interpretación. Al apretar el botón, podrán elegir inglés, portugués o español. Elijan el idioma apropiado y así podrán oír la traducción a lo largo del encuentro. Gracias.
Shalom to everyone and welcome. We would like to begin the program. I am delighted to welcome all of you to the 2024 MOR, the World WIZO Meeting of Representatives, or as we all call it, the MOR. The MOR is our annual general meeting, which the Israeli law governing NGOs requires us to hold at least once a year. The main purpose of the MOR is to approve the principles of the World WIZO budget and other statutory matters as required by law. I am pleased to recognize our new World WIZO President, Anat Vidor, Honorary Life Presidents Esther Moore, Tova Ben-Dov, and Elena Glaser. I welcome the presidents and chairpersons of WIZO's federations, the members of the WIZO Executive and the Audit Committee, and invited guests. Today's meeting is Anat's inaugural MOR as president, and normally she should be sitting next to me. But yesterday she went through an unscheduled medical procedure, which went smoothly. She's fine, nothing to worry about, but she's only able to join us through Zoom. Anat, I know everyone joins me in wishing you refuah shlema and a quick recovery. Today, February 7th, marks 4 months since that devastating and fateful day, October 7th, 2023. This meeting, like the EGM last month, is being held in the shadow of those events and the war in Gaza. Tragically, since we last met, dozens more of IDF soldiers have been killed or wounded, and over 136 hostages are still living in the endless nightmare of Hamas captivity. I would like to take a moment of silence to mourn and remember those killed, murdered, wounded, and kidnapped. Thank you. I am often asked for updates on WIZO's activities during the war. I'm relating to this in my recorded remarks, and we will also be showing you a short video presentation on this later in this meeting. But there are a few important updates and developments that I would like to share with you. First of all, nearly all of our WIZO institutions and services are operating at full capacity. The only projects still closed are our 3 daycare centers and our open house in Sderot, daycare centers in Kiryat Shmone and Beit Hillel in the Upper Galilee, and our WIZO Israel branch on Kiryat Shmone. As of today, there are 10,632 children in our daycare centers, nearly the number with which we started the year. The return of children to our daycare centers is an important expression of stability and of the faith of parents all over Israel in WIZO, the quality of our care, and the knowledge that these infants and toddlers are safe and protected. There are still over 50 WIZO employees serving in the IDF reserves, some of whom have been from the very beginning of the war. A very important development for Israel and for WIZO is the return of the residents of Sderot to their city. WIZO has decided to reopen our 3 daycare centers in Sderot on March 3, which is just around the corner. This may sound simple, but in fact it's far from that. Sderot has undergone a traumatic earthquake. almost all of its residents were dispersed after October 7th, it is not clear how many will return and when. In order to reopen our daycare centers, we need staff. And we are working hard to ensure that our 60-day daycare teachers and support teams will return to work in the next few weeks. It is also unclear how many children will be returning to our daycare centers since Sderot and when. In other words, reopening our centers will be in many respects like opening them from scratch. There is so much uncertainty. WIZO will need to invest a great deal of attention and resources to the return to Sderot, which is of such tremendous importance, both symbolically and substantively. We want to provide our staff with all possible assistance to help them return to Sderot and to our daycare centers. We will need to make special efforts to help our professional teams who themselves have been through such a terrible trauma and provide intensive training and guidance in dealing with their children and their families. To this end, we will soon be launching a special fundraising campaign, WIZO Returns to Sderot. You will be receiving more details from us pretty soon. I am excited now to update about a historic initiative that WIZO has undertaken. As you may know, a few weeks after October 7th, the government established a body called the Tkuma Directorate, whose mandate is to plan and execute the rebuilding of the Gaza envelope region and the rehabilitation of its residents. This region will be renamed the Tkuma region. In Hebrew, Tkuma means rebirth or resurrection. There can be no doubt that the rebuilding of this region and the return of its residents is an initiative of critical and dramatic importance to the State of Israel, the Jewish people, and the entire Zionist enterprise. It is only natural that WIZO, which has played such a key role in the history of modern Zionism and the State of Israel, should have a role to play in the Tkuma. To this end, we have entered into serious discussions with the Directorate, presenting them with a number of concrete and innovative proposals. These discussions are ongoing, and it is too early to say how this will develop. We very much hope that this initiative will bear fruit, and if it does, it will have far-reaching implications for WIZO and a worldwide movement. I promise to keep you updated. By the way, you will be proud to know that the man selected to head this directorate is Moshe Edrei, former IDF general, currently head of Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, and a proud graduate of WIZO Nira Emek, where he was a boarding student from 7th to 12th grade and has a powerful connection to WIZO to this day. I want to take a moment to make a special mention of the work of Rolin Marks, who you all know so well. In her capacity as executive member for public diplomacy and Hasbara, and as a passionate patriot and tireless advocate and defender of Israel, Rolin has done a phenomenal job through her news and Hasbara WhatsApp groups and in other media platforms of keeping us all informed and focused on the most important news and messaging related to the war and everything about it. She provides a truly invaluable service to all of us, around the clock, day after day, and has been doing so for 4 months without respite. And in doing so, she represents WIZO effectively and passionately. I know that the first thing I do every morning is turn on my WhatsApps and look at her WhatsApp. Thank you so much, Rolin. The agenda of today's meeting will be as follows. We will begin with a presentation of the newly elected World WIZO Executive, followed by the recorded presentations from WIZO President Anat Vidor and myself, followed by WIZO Israel Chairperson Ora Korazim, CEO Mira Mines, outgoing Treasurer Gila Cohen, and Chairperson of the Audit Committee Miri Pekin. We will also have a presentation by the outgoing Aviv representative Sharon Fasca from Panama. and other content presentations. At the end, there will be time for questions and answers, followed by voting on the budget and other statutory matters. It is now my honor and pleasure to present the newly elected members of the World WIZO Executive and the role each one will be taking. These are the amazing and devoted women who will lead our great organization and movement together with me and Anat for the next 4 years.
Shalom, dear WIZO leaders. This is my first address to you as the newly elected World WIZO President. I would like to thank you for your support and the vote of confidence you have given me. We are pre-recording this message. Today is Sunday, January 14th, the 100th day of the Gaza war. It would be naive to think that things won't change by the time you will be seeing this message. And it was even more naive of me to think that the address I planned to deliver to you a week ago is the one I'll be delivering today. On Friday, we drove up north to pay respects to the families of 2 WIZO graduates who fell in battle. One from WIZO Nahalal and the other from WIZO Nir HaEmek. Without knowing each other, these 2 young men shared similar journeys and identical destinies. They both embodied everything beautiful and hopeful about life and personified the values that WIZO and our youth villages instill in generations of Israeli youth. They died 1 day apart. Both had the same name, Ro'i. In both homes, there was a table with dozens of photos from family trips and memorable moments these boys experienced in their short lives. Through those images, we got a glimpse into their lives. We spoke to the parents, hugged them. Ro'i Maimon's father even thanked WIZO for giving his son such a great childhood and instilling him in those profound good values. Ro'i's younger brother also studies at WIZO Nir HaEmek. And when he saw Esti, the director of the youth village, he ran into her arms. Ro'i Tal's father teaches in Nir HaEmek and said he can't wait to go back to work after he gets up from the shiva. Esti told him to take his time, and his answer was that there will be a lifetime to grieve, but now his students need him. You see, we are a family. WIZO, our soldiers, the State of Israel, you, our WIZO leaders, we are one. The real leaders of today are the ones that from the outside seem to be the victims. But can't you see? This is misleading, because the voices that are holding our country together are the ones that have decided to flip the narrative. And guess what? They are women. When I returned from the Shiv'ah back home, there was a TV news item about 3 mothers who have inspired an entire nation. The 3 of them share a common reality. They all gave birth to handsome, smart, good boys. And the 3 of them lost those boys in the last 3 months. All 3 have flipped the narrative by commanding us not to see ourselves as victims, but rather as warriors fighting for our right of the sovereign state of Israel to exist as the Jewish democratic homeland. This is the legacy of their sons.
ועכשיו לכם, לכולכם, לכולנו, לעם היהודי בארץ ישראל, בתור מספרת סיפורים אני אומרת לכם, לסיפור שלנו יהיה סוף טוב. אנחנו ננצח. אין לנו ברירה אחרת. אנחנו עם שרוצה לחיות, ולא כמו האויבים שלנו, שפלים ועלובים, פחדנים, נאצים ועוזריהם, שמקדשים את המוות. אנחנו נחיה ונשגשג ונבנה.
And let me tell you, their voices are heard louder than any politician or public figure. The message of these women rises above all talking heads on TV and resonate with all of us. We listen to them because they are authentic and speak words of grace and truth. They made the ultimate sacrifice without asking anything in return, a pure generosity of spirit with no ulterior motives. Can you see yourselves in these women? I can. I see them in each and every one of you, the Zionist women leaders of today. When you speak, people listen. Your families, your friends, and your communities, they listen to you. Sometimes you might think they don't, but trust me, they do. You know why? Because everyone that knows you identifies you as a WIZO woman. Yes, that kind of woman that each morning chooses to dedicate her time to others. In these confusing times, people are looking to you for answers and clarity. They look to you because you are a Zionist leader and you represent Israel. Your task is great because the forces of evil are powerful. And you must stand strong and instill faith and resilience in your families, your members, and your communities. You are the leaders of a historic movement that symbolizes everything that is good in this world. It's on these values that we have been raising our children for over 100 years. No wonder that from the WIZO education system in Israel came our nation's greatest leaders, and that from the homes of WIZO women came leaders of the Jewish world. The recipe of our success is in the WIZO movement, in our ability to adapt and move and change to a need. Today, I'm proud and humbled to take my place among you great Zionist women. In my WIZO path, there have been many women who have inspired, taught, and believed in me. I owe a special debt of gratitude to those who planted the WIZO DNA in me. In my first days in WIZO Sydney, Neely Berger, Ronnie Bogner, Gila Lieberman, and the late Rose Fekete. Here in Israel, I want to thank Elisheva Levavi and Ora Korazim for their ongoing support. And I want to mention Nina Shapira, the incredible chairperson of World WIZO's Education Division, and our unofficial WIZO poet. Nina's friendship and steadfast support have meant the world to me. But above all, there is one woman who has been like a second mother to me, encouraging, supporting, mentoring, and standing up for me at every turn. That is Esther Wakeman. For me, she is the ultimate WIZO woman. She fights for what's right, doesn't let anyone stand in her way, embraces the new, but treasures the old. She is what a WIZO woman means. She gets goosebumps every time her tikva is played. She's a Zionist, a feminist. She's my Esther. This more is a virtual meeting, but I promise you, my presidency will be anything but virtual. I can't wait to meet every single one of you. Thank you and shalom.
ילד עבר זמן, נסעת לחפש רחוק מכאן, ואני מחכה לך. או ילד שלי בעולם, ציפור אדם כמו כולם, מחפש את האופק. כל מטוס שטס בשמיים, כל כוכב מאיר בעיניים, מזכיר לי אותך, לך לי אלי לפני הגשם, צרצרים בשעת הערב, תמיד יחכו לך, תמיד יחכו לך. או ילד כששקט, אני יושבת במרפסת לנגן מנגינות געגוע. או ילד תשתדל להגיע לכאן מהר, ככה אני מבקשת בשקט. כל מטוס שטס בשמיים, כל כוכב מאיר בעיניים, מזכיר לי אותך, לך לי אלי לפני הגשם, צרצרים בשעת הערב, תמיד יחכו לך, תמיד יחכו לך, תמיד, תמיד יחכו לך, תמיד, תמיד יחכו לך. או ילד, או ילדה, הסיפור שלנו השתנה, נסדקו השמיים,
יהיה מה שיהיה, אני עוד אשנה, אני אגשים את חלומי, נושאי בשורה, מכות עוד גזרה, לא ישנו את מהותי. אני את והאל שלצידי עוד ננצח, לא בגלל הכוח, רק בגלל הרוח הנושבת בגבי, רק בגלל הרוח בתוכי, במוחי, בנשמתי, רק בגלל הרוח בתוכי, בדמי, בנשמתי. שיש לי להגיד, אני עוד אצרח, אפילו בירח ישמעו. מי שיגיד לא כך, אותו צדקתי, כן. אני את והאל שלצידי, עוד ננצח, כן, כן. לא בגלל הכוח, רק בגלל הרוח הנושבת בגבי. רק בגלל הרוח, בתוכי, במוחי, בנשמתי. רק בגלל הרוח, בתוכי, במוחי, נשמתי. אני את והאל שלצידי, עוד ננצח. לא בגלל הכוח, רק בגלל הרוח הנושבת בגבי. רק בגלל הרוח, רק בגלל הרוח, בתוכי, במוחי, נשמתי.
Dear Chaverot, less than a month ago, we met hundreds of WIZO members from around the world on Zoom. Whether it is the corona pandemic or the Gaza war, it sometimes seems that there is some invisible hand trying to keep us from being together. That someday in the future, when the history of these years is written, these 4 years will be called the Zoom years. Seriously though, while it is so disappointing not to be able to meet face to face, I think that it is a testament to the strength of our movement that the pandemics and wars cannot and will not come between us, will never defeat the unity of our movement, our spirit, our sisterhood. Although we could not hold our EGM and MOR together in Israel, we are delighted to be hosting more and more missions and groups that are coming to show solidarity with WIZO and with Israel and experience firsthand what our nation has gone through since that terrible day of October 7th. I know that those among you who have come on such journeys can testify how deeply you were affected by being in Israel at this time, meeting the people, volunteering in farms, seeing the destruction and horror, cooking for soldiers, touching and being touched by Israel after October 7th. I strongly encourage you to keep visiting, whether in organized missions or individuals or group visits. In my presentation at the EGM, I summarized the first 4 years of my term as chairperson. Today, I would like to share with you a few of my thoughts about the coming years, how I see WIZO moving forward. First, though, I would like to express my profound gratitude for the incredible work you have all done since October 7th, and in particular, the outpouring of support you showed us from the very first hours. Within a few weeks, you raised and sent to us close to 20 million shekels. We have periodically reported to you on WIZO's activities during the war and our priorities in using these funds. But I would like to take this opportunity to give you a bit more detail and context. First of all, I want to remind us all, as emphatically, as strongly as I can, that the war is still going on. I am taping this message a few weeks before the MOR, and at this time, fierce battles are raging in Gaza. Many soldiers are dying and being wounded. 132 hostages have been in Gaza for more than 100 days with no end in sight. The tension in the north is intense, and who knows where that will lead. Will there be a massive clash with Hezbollah, with rockets raining down throughout Israel? When will the hundreds of thousands of Israelis who have been displaced and evacuated from their homes be able to go back to Sderot, to Kiryat Shmone, and the kibbutzim and moshavim of the south and north? When will the hundreds of thousands of IDA reservists will be released from their service and go back to their families and normal lives, and hopefully back to a normal economy? In the first few weeks of the war, as your emergency funds started pouring in, it became clear that the war could be very long, with an extremely high level of uncertainty about nearly everything. How severely will our institutions be affected? How much revenue would be lost? Could we expect the government to help the way it did during COVID pandemic? And many more similar questions. There were immediate needs that had to be addressed, and the funds you sent were critical to our ability to do this. For example, the IDF Front Command authorized daycare centers to reopen only if their safety rooms and shelters were in compliance with all the regulations. This required us to immediately invest significant funds to make critical repairs in dozens of daycare centers. We also had to invest in our shelters and safe rooms in youth villages, schools, WIZO Israel centers, and our women's shelters all around. We hosted 150 evacuees in WIZO Gan Vanov Youth Village for the first few weeks of the war. Other evacuees are being hosted in our parents' home and in WIZO Hadassim. All this costs money. We provided emergency assistance to hundreds of women and children in our safety net program who were thrown into economic and psychological distress. Our high school students were forced to stay at home for weeks, and we had to provide with many of them with tablets and laptops, and otherwise they would have been cut off from their classes and education. We funded the transportation cost of bringing WIZO high school students to volunteer in farms suffering from a severe shortage of workers. You will remember that only a few days after October 7th, we convinced the Army and government to allow us to open 11 daycare centers serving hospital staff around the country. For weeks, these were the only daycare centers operating in Israel, and we were not immediately reimbursed by the government for this, and of course not for the full cost. We have concluded numerous emotional and professional support activities and workshops for our teams in our daycare centers, schools, villages, and shelters. We reinforced our physical and technological infrastructure in WIZO headquarters, making necessary preparations for disaster scenarios. These are some of the examples of the kinds of needs, large and small, that we have been able to meet thanks to the funds from the emergency campaign. But, as I mentioned, we are spending these funds very carefully with an eye to the future. With a longer war ahead of us, with Israeli society in collective trauma, unprecedented in our history, we know that not only will there be great needs in the near future, but new and urgent needs will be developing all the time. If we want to be able to respond to these needs, we need to conserve our resources. We know that the psychological and emotional effects of October 7th and the war will deeply affect us and the people we serve for months and years to come. We will need these resources to help the youth in our schools and villages, the women we care for and protect, the babies, children, and families in our emergency and welfare frameworks, and our professional teams everywhere. There are so many needs for bomb shelters and safe rooms in many of our institutions. For example, Beit HaKerem campus has no bomb shelters at all, and we will need to invest in this and in other places in the area. Again, in the area of domestic violence, which is always very sensitive to social crisis, the first few weeks of the war saw a strange and relative quiet, but soon enough, numerous factors contributing to the tension and violence in the home and family began to converge. Economic stress, severe disruption in life routines, children's at home, rocket attacks, and of course the overall ongoing inescapable trauma of reliving October 7th day after day, and the destruction and death that always comes with war. Not to mention the conditions in which tens of thousands of families have been living for months, crowded into tiny hotel rooms, they and their children torn away from their homes and lives, often with very little to do. Not surprisingly, all this resulted in a huge spike in domestic violence and created a double trauma for the women and children in our shelters and those we care for in our safety net program. Here is a testimonial of one of these women. I am 30 years old, so I left the shelter 2 months ago. I was in a very, very violent relationship, and now I got out. I recovered from it. But that Saturday, October 7th, I was actually in Ashkelon, so as soon as I heard that there was an invasion, I lost myself. I was absolutely terrified. I didn't know what to do, and somehow I got out of there, but all the time, fear. For almost 2 weeks, I didn't eat, I didn't drink, and I had a very, very hard time. These are some of the challenges that lay ahead in months and years to come, and we will continue to be very cautious and careful about the way we administer and spend this precious resource that you had worked so hard to raise. Looking for the next few years from a strategic point of view, we will continue to focus on doing what we do even better on the one hand, and on innovating new services and programs on the other hand. This, after all, is the WIZO DNA. We identify needs that the government and other civil society organizations have not addressed, and we develop and implement responses to them. Eventually, we hope and expect the government to take responsibility for these needs, and we'll either ask WIZO to operate those services or take them over. At the same time, we will continue to place a financial stability and a constant search for new revenues for partnership for new sources of philanthropic funds. We will partner with you, our federations, to help you raise more money. We will continue to increase the funds we raise in Israel. We will continue to improve our marketing and public exposure, both in Israel and abroad. In the past few years, we have taken on a much more active and in some cases dominant role in the bodies that deal with the government and lobby in such areas as daycare and high school education. We will continue to invest in our human resources. We need to find the funds to improve the working conditions of some of our most critical, important professional staff, such as our daycare center teachers and the counselors in our youth villages. In the aftermath of October 7 and the great challenges of strengthening resilience and recovering from trauma, these needs are even more acute than before. In our daycare center network, we're trying to develop competitive advantage through innovative programs and services, and are seeking ways to reduce our dependence on the government. These are some of the key areas that we're determined to focus on in the coming years. In the business world, it is said that if you're not growing, you are dying. For an organization of movement such as WIZO, the paraphrase is, if you're not adapting, changing, and innovating, you are dying. I strongly believe this is true. I am very excited to begin the second half of my tenure as chairman of WIZO, and to tackle the challenges of the next 4 years with an incredible leadership team at my side. Our new elected World WIZO executive, with a mix of veteran, experience, and lifelong devotion to WIZO, together with new members with strong professional expertise in different fields. I am excited to work with our new president, Anat, and I'm sure she will bring dynamic energy and new ideas to her work with you. We're so very fortunate to have a strong and devoted leader of WIZO Israel, Ora Korazim, and our new treasurer, Dvora Elhanati, with much experience and expertise. I would like to give special thanks and praise to Miri Pekin, who after completing 2 terms of service as chairperson of our audit committee, will be retiring. Miri brought great professionalism and strength and dedication to this important role and made a very important contribution to WIZO. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to our outgoing treasurer, Gila Cohen, who has contributed so much to WIZO for so long and played a key role in steering our financial ship through the troubled waters of these last few years. On a personal level, Gila has been a tremendous source of support, advice, and friendship for me. Gila is the epitome of a WIZO woman, smart, devoted, competent, and kind, a true lady, a class act. Gila, you have earned the love and respect of all of us. We are blessed to have thousands of active and committed volunteers in WIZO Israel branches and second-hand shops, bringing our work and message to the grassroots in communities throughout the country. I am also blessed to work with a supremely talented professional team led by CEO Mira Menes, our division directors, and the leaders of our institutions in the field, our youth villages and schools, parent homes, our shelters, and of course, all of the 6,000 WIZO employees in some 800 projects and institutions. And then there is you, my dear Haverot, the leaders of our federations around the world. I often wish that every volunteer and employee in World WIZO could spend a few days with you, watching how hard you work, getting a taste of the challenges you face every day, taking part in one of your events, feeling your energy and passion, witnessing the amazing things that you do with almost no professional staff. It is you that keeps the WIZO flame burning bright in dozens of countries on 6 continents. You are an inspiration to all of us, and together we will do ever greater things for our movement and Israel. Together, as I said, ביחד ננצח. תודה רבה. Thank you very much. At the EGM, we celebrated great WIZO leaders from the federations and World WIZO by honoring them with the title of Lifetime Honorary Members. Unfortunately, some of these honorees were not included in the presentation at the EGM, and we would like to now present them.
Dear friends, my WIZO Israel Chaverot and Chaverot around the world, Shalom to you all. On this special day for WIZO at the annual meeting of representatives, we hope that you would all be with us here in Israel to celebrate in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. But even if we have to face the camera again and communicate through the airwaves, I'm honored to stand in front of this distinguished forum that connects 5 continents and 38 states and 60 time zones to present my summary of WIZO Israel in 2023. It is impossible to begin without saying that for us in Israel, last year was divided into two different parts, before and after October 7th. Today, as we review our activities and measure the pulse and vitality of our beloved WIZO movement, Israel is still at war on so many fronts. The war in Gaza, the war in the north, and a different kind of war in the rest of the world. Even now, our soldiers are fighting in Gaza. Our citizens live in a state of emergency. Too many have been forced to evacuate their towns and communities. Global anti-Semitism is rampant and the hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Every day there is a knock on Israeli family doors to inform them of terrible news, the deep shock of the horror that engulfs Israeli society since that Black Shabbat will stay with us for generations and remind us, our children and grandchildren, that in our neighborhood, every terrible scenario, even the most unthinkable, can happen. The war also demonstrated the importance of national unity and mutual faith. It reminded us of our precious partnership with friends around the world and here in Israel. This helped us to emerge from every military conflict with the upper hand. Let me share an example of this special partnership here in Israel. A few days ago, we initiated a very emotional event in WIZO Daliat el-Carmel, a branch operated by our Druze sisters, a patriotic and active branch that leads and takes responsibility. Present were 6 Druze families whose sons, some of them high-ranking officers, had been killed in the war. Our strong relationship with the Druze people is an alliance of blood, uplifting, and inspirational. It demonstrates that even in Israel, people of different faith can write their stories together and create a shared set of values that rises above tradition and history. For us, as a Zionist women's organization, our activities in the Druze communities are a dream come true. It is the model society that Herzl dreamed of. This highly regarded event, which we held for the Druze community and our friends from Daliat el-Carmel, who chose WIZO as a platform for their social activism, is a prime example. WIZO Israel will continue to develop its activities and cooperation in every community that loves the state, shares its values, and seeks its best interests. Our working year was, as always, overflowing with activities around the calendar and around the clock. The women of WIZO Israel, our dear volunteers in the branches and in the head office, proved once again that they are leading entrepreneurs, hardworking, and always ready to initiate and execute an endless list of programs. In our nationwide chain of bigudiot, second-hand clothing stores, after years of increase in income and activities, we maintained an income of 18 million shekels, despite the war. In total, more than 20 million shekels were raised by the Israeli Federation. This makes the WIZO Israel Federation a sound, essential economic asset to WIZO. The year 2023 will be remembered by WIZO Israel as a year of war, preceded by many months of thriving and creativity. Let's look at some of the year's highlights. In January, we were delighted to host you in our Netanya branch for an uplifting evening. In the same month, we conducted a training session for new chairpersons, 10 leaders from the field and another potential volunteers attended a 10-meeting course to equip them for executive posts in WIZO. WIZO Israel is commissioning the next generation of leaders. In February, we had a special meeting in the Tefen Club in which 150 women leaders in Israel's economy were fully briefed on the multifaceted activities of WIZO and its crucial role in Israeli society. We are deepening our ties and cooperation with leading professional women in Israel. In March, we introduced a unique course to train volunteer coordinators as part of our efforts to recruit and retain volunteers in our branches. We also celebrated International Women's Day with thousands of events in WIZO branches and conducted a nationwide effort to connect thousands of women in Israel. Part of my vision is that WIZO will reach and touch the lives of every woman in Israel. There has already been an increase in the number of girls and women who benefited from WIZO services last year. 20,000 women, youth and children, not including activities war-related, benefited from our support compared to 13,000 in the previous year. April brought us the Earth Day activities in which we highlighted our Bigudiot chain's contribution to sustainable living and protecting the environment through recycled clothing, including many events in each of our stores. In May, we held a series of Women Talk bereavement in branches nationwide to mark Memorial Day, where mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives share stories of losing loved ones. The WIZO Israel conference was also held in May, and in this annual festive gathering elections were held for the incoming WIZO Israel executive. WIZO Israel Chaverot elected our board management and expressed confidence in me as a choice for a second term as chairperson of the Israeli Federation. In June, the project Growth Space for Haredi Girls, which is especially dear to me, came to a successful close. The project held at the WIZO Jerusalem branch, thanks to the generosity of the Wall Foundation, has brought new skills, both professional and personal, to Haredi girls. For the first time, WIZO has sowed the seeds of interfaith and mutual respect in a large and important sector of Israeli society, the Haredi sector. In July, we held a Vintage Day in the Bigudiot, styling and fashion for special occasions. The promotion and marketing of the Bigudiot demands much expertise and effort. We all know that the bottom line cannot grow on its own. In August, in the presence of 200 guests, we successfully reopened the WIZO branch in Givatayim as part of our efforts to reestablish our presence in central cities. In September, in a new initiative, we held a training day for all our branches' secretaries, focusing on the professionalism and the WIZO values by which we operate. We also relaunched our social business cooperation with the major high-tech company, Matrix. Over 100 of their employees came to volunteer in WIZO branches. By creating ties between WIZO Israel and major national companies, I foresee new growth and influence to benefit our movement. October came as a terrible shock. The events of that awful Black Shabbat resulted in the deployment of countless initiatives and projects to galvanize the national effort. We mobilized our army of WIZO Israel Chaverot to support the evacuees, especially the children and wives of soldiers drafted into the war. We visited wounded soldiers and befriended lone soldiers. We mobilized for donation of clothes, toys, and essential items and played an integral role in the Israeli war effort in every and any way. Our Chaverot work around the clock to cook and bake, to organize and distribute care packages for the refugees from the south and all those affected by the war. We supported our own Haverot whose loved ones were killed. Unfortunately, 7 of our dear WIZO Israel sisters are mourning children, grandchildren, and nephews who were killed and fell in this war. In November, alongside our war effort activities, we opened a new group for women exiting the cycle of violence in Rishon LeZion. It is our 9th group in cooperation with the Division of the Status of Women. The groups take place in our branches by our volunteers, escorting and guiding families towards a new and better life away from the cycle of violence. It is a unique program that has become one of our most outstanding missions. In December, we held a fair to promote women's small businesses. This trial, fair in cooperation with the city of Modi'in, enables creative and artistic women to exhibit their crafts to the public. Due to its success and high demand, we will continue to hold these fairs in other cities in Israel. For the countless activities in the branches, in the bigudiyot, and in general, this never-ending list of projects, plans, and activities that fill our WIZO Israel calendar, I must pay thanks. Firstly, to my dear sisters in the WIZO Israel Executive, to the chairpersons of the branches, the selfless volunteers in all our branches and bigudiyot, to the director of WIZO Israel activities, Michal Danin Hollander, and the dedicated workers of the organization. To the World WIZO Executive, our chairperson, Anita Friedman, our CEO, Mira Mines, and all the divisions of World WIZO that cooperate with us. I pay special thanks to Esther Moore, outgoing president of World WIZO, for her many years of warm cooperation. Esther, you went above and beyond for us, always there when needed, with encouragement and good advice. Thank you for everything, dear Esther. And I'm warmly welcome Anat Vaido, our incoming World WIZO president. Good luck, Anat. I started with the war, and I will end with the war, because it consumes our lives right now. Every war puts us to the test, and this war, the longest and most cruel since the War of Independence, puts many challenges ahead of us. But at the end of the day, despite all criticism of the army, intelligence services, and the government in Israel, we rediscover that the rock of the state of Israel is the strength and quality of its people, who for thousands of years have had to overcome enemies and danger. The older generation from whose experience we learn remains strong, arm in arm with our younger generation. Our illustrious youth, they are our pride, so resilient, clever, and able. This is no surprise. They are the result of our endeavors. We raise them to be the product of a strong and liberal society that cares for individuals and gives up on no one. With our sisters and brothers from around the world who are always by our side to share the burden, we rise to every challenge. And even when worry consumes us, there is still so much space for volunteering. This is what we all do together. Your support and the aid of all kinds that comes from every warm Jewish heart in Germany, Holland, Austria, from Australia to the USA and everywhere in between, strengthens us and our resolve to do more for Israeli society. This reinforcement is felt on the home front and on the army front lines facing the enemy. And we, women of WIZO, Israel, feel it too. For this, dear friends, from my heart I say, thank you, todah. More than ever, the bond between us is unbreakable. We all suffer from the same hatred, that kidnap and rape our daughters in Re'im, that burns a synagogue in Brussels, that speaks in diplomatic voices under the cover of humanitarianism and calls for a ceasefire, that will tie our hands from defending ourselves. It is the same multi-tentacle enemy that normalized terror against Jews. We must remember always that we are all one, a united people. And more than ever, we must face the dangers as one. Today, more than ever before, I am proud to be Jewish and Zionist, and I know that you feel that way too. In the year 2024, we in WIZO Israel look forward with hope for a year of national and WIZO strength. We are prepared for our multi-branch activities and ready to tackle the rising special needs according to circumstances. My dear friends, here in Israel, where rounds of fighting come and go, as naturally as the season turns, we dream of quiet and steady days, of a time when the heroes rest and the boys return and the rain comes on time and the wheat grows again. 2,500 years ago, the prophet Zechariah asked, "For who despises a small day?" And his voice speaks to us at the beginning of 2024, when we are missing our usual and routine activities, the status of women, enrichment classes for children, training for women and girls, and so much more. There is no doubt that the war will end and the blessed routine will return, and we will return to doing what matters and seeing it as our sacred mission. I want to leave you with the words from a song that is played a lot here in Israel in times of war. את הגשם תן רק בעיתו, ובאביב פזר לנו פרחים, ותן שיחזור שוב לביתו. יותר מזה אנחנו לא צריכים. Let the rain drop when it's meant to be, and the spring scatter flowers for us, a sight to see. Just let him return. It's all we want. Nothing more. That's all we need. Wishing us all peace and security and a good WIZO year. We will definitely dance again. Am Israel Chai.
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be here doing this video for you. I would like to start by telling you what the past few years have been for me. I had the opportunity to visit several federations, like Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, Frankfurt, which was super special. Also Israel, of course. I also had the honor of attending the World Zionist Congress in Basel, which is for sure a very memorable experience. I will never forget it. Such an honor. But based on my experience, I would like to give a few ideas or recommendations for the future. I know because of things happening in the world, we had to cancel the Aviv seminar, but it's important that we do it because Aviv is the future. We are the future of this amazing organization, and we need to give it the importance it deserves. Also, I think it would be good to do regional Aviv seminars because it's not always easy to go to Israel, even though we would love for it to be easier, but it's not the case. I was thinking maybe it would be good to have 2 Aviv representatives because it's always good to have somebody to lean on, somebody to share ideas with, somebody to help with the workload, you know? Based on that, I would like to just say how amazing this has been. It's an honor. It's something I have always wanted, an amazing experience. I started working in WIZO when I was 12, and I will be working in WIZO for the rest of my life. So for the next Aviv representative, I want to say, I'm always here. I'm just a text away. Let me know. I don't need the title. I want to work. We all want to work. We all want what's best for Israel, for our countries, for our federations. but especially for our people in these hard times that we're living. There's so much work to do. And I'm here for it. I'm willing to work. I will hopefully see you soon all in Israel. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank Sharon for her presentation and for her devoted work for the past 2 years. We have not yet identified a successor for Sharon, and we have decided that in the coming year, we will focus on developing young membership and leadership in our federations, culminating with holding the Aviv Seminar in Israel late in the year. As you might be aware, the last Aviv Seminar was held in 2018, and it is of great importance that we renew this practice and tradition. We envision that the next Aviv representative will come from among the participants of the seminar. Now, we have prepared a short clip on some of the things WIZO has done during the war. I would like to add that in addition to our ongoing responsibilities to the tens of thousands of people we serve, our volunteer and professional leadership are constantly thinking of new and innovative ways to meet the challenges not only of our institutions, but of Israeli society as a whole. I mentioned before our Kuma initiative, but we have been out there leading throughout the war. For example, our education division has devised a special program for emotional support and resilience that has been adopted by the Ministry of Education, and it is now being implemented throughout the country. Our Division of Advancement of Women has also been in the forefront of innovation in dealing with the new and enormous challenges facing Israel. This leadership and innovation is who we are and who we have always been. It is our WIZO DNA.
Dear friends, I'm so happy to see you all again. The main focus of the MOR is to approve World WIZO budget and work plans for the coming year. The budget is not simply a financial document, but is a statement about WIZO's priorities, strategy, and plans for the future. The enormous amount of thought and work that went into creating this year's budget was not only aimed at making sure that WIZO's finances will be responsible and balanced, but to be sure that every shekel we spend will serve WIZO's vision, value, and goals as efficiently as possible. Formulating the budget was the work of many people, and I would like to especially thank Ella Gauberg, WIZO CFO, and Mali Lipovich, who heads the Budget and Control Department. Of course, I also thank Gila Cohen, the outgoing treasurer, whose guidance was invaluable. For both Ella and Mali, this was the first time they led the process of planning a WIZO budget, and they did an incredible job in conditions of war and uncertainty. My praise and thanks also go to WIZO's senior professional management, what we call Forum Mankal, for their strong leadership, cooperation, and united action. I would also like to convey special thanks to Rachel Meron, the head of WIZO Employees Union, for her partnership. October 7th and the war in Gaza have been a watershed moment in the history of Israel, of the Jewish people, and for WIZO. The terrible shock of October 7th could have paralyzed and demoralized all of us. But that is not what happened. On the contrary, within hours, before anyone really had a full idea of the scope of the devastation, the WIZO world, here and in the federations, went immediately into action. Here, we immediately set up a war cabinet to deal with the multiple crises that arose from the situation. And you, in the federation, rose up in unity to support us, to support Israel, and fight the outburst of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in your countries. Immediately, you started raising money for WIZO's emergency campaign, and within a few weeks, you sent us millions of shekels, which has helped us in many critical ways. But I would like to emphasize how deeply moved we are by your effort, by your generous support, hard work, and total devotion to WIZO and to Israel. Knowing that we have this great international movement standing behind us, always, but especially at a time of war and crisis, is so incredibly meaningful for us, and gave us a big lift in morale and helped us coping with these terrible months, which unfortunately are not over yet. On behalf of all of us here, I want to thank you. As CEO of WIZO, and especially in times like this, my first priority after taking care of the morale of the employees and to make sure that we can continue function even within these national and private tragedies is ensuring our financial strength and stability. We are Israel's largest and most important educational and social welfare organization, serving tens of thousands of Israelis and employing 6,000 workers. We have a great responsibility to ensure that we can provide our services at the highest level possible and to care for the security and welfare to staff and volunteers. To put it simply, to fulfill WIZO's great, ambitious, and historic mandate to the people of Israel, we need resources. To this end, we continue to invest great efforts, not only in operating as efficient as possible, but also to increase revenue and constantly seek new sources of income in accordance with the strategic plan we adopted 2 years ago. You, the federations around the globe, WIZO's partners, have a very important role to play. In 2023, you fulfilled that role in a most impressive way. I am talking not only of the money you raised for the emergency campaign, but for your efforts in raising and sending us quota money. For 2023, we set the goal of raising $7 million in quota. This is a great achievement, and I hope very much that we will meet this standard in 2024 and even achieve beyond it. Israel is still at war. The nation is traumatized. Children, women, and families are struggling to survive and recover. The economy is crushed by the costs of the war. Dozens of WIZO employees are still doing IDF military service. The year ahead of us will be extremely challenging. Here in WIZO, new needs are arising all the time, and we need you, the WIZO movement and global family, to continue to work in solidarity with us, to help us continue to build, restore, innovate, and succeed. We promise to do our part, and we are counting on you to do yours. Before I close, I would like to say a word about leadership, a subject I think about quite a lot. Everyone taking part in this meeting is a part of that leadership. The future of WIZO depends first and foremost on us. I am privileged to serve with such dedicated women leaders. First, Anita Friedman. Then, our new president, Anat Vidor. Congratulations, dear Anat. The World WIZO Executive, and with all of you. The late American statesman Henry Kissinger said, "The task of the leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been." This great challenge we face, to take WIZO to places we have not yet been. I thank you very much.
משפחת ויצו היקרה, אני עומדת להציג בפניכם את התקציב לשנת 2024, כפי שעשיתי ב8 השנים האחרונות. זהו מעמד מיוחד עבורי, כיוון שבזאת אני מסיימת את תפקידי כגזברית ויצו לאחר 2 קדנציות בתפקיד. אני מעבירה את השרביט לגזברית החדשה, לדבורה אלחנתי, ואני מאחלת לה הצלחה בתפקידה החדש. אני בטוחה שהיא תעשה עבודה נהדרת. את תקציב 2024 הכנו במהלך מלחמה קשה, כאשר צבא ההגנה לישראל נלחם בגבולות המדינה כדי להגן על תושביה. אבל בתוך החושך הזה היו אורות רבים. תקופת המלחמה חשפה את העוצמה של עם ישראל. ראינו בזמן המלחמה את ההתגייסות המדהימה של האומה הנהדרת שלנו. ראינו את הערבות ההדדית של החברה הישראלית. ראינו את התמיכה מחממת הלב של הפדרציות של ויצו ברחבי תבל, ואת התמיכה של הקהילות היהודיות בעולם. חכמי ישראל לימדו אותנו עיקרון חשוב. אור קטן מגרש הרבה מן החושך. יש במשפט הזה עידוד מיוחד. כשיש צרה, כשיש קושי, כשיש סכנה, ואפילו אם נדמה שאין תקווה, במקום להיבהל, במקום לפחד, במקום להתייאש, במקום להרים ידיים, צריך להדליק אור. כלומר, צריך לחפש דבר טוב שניתן להאחז בו, כי אפילו אור קטן מגרש הרבה מן החושך. זהו החזון של ויצו, זו המטרה שלשמה ויצו הוקמה. ויצו הוקמה בשביל להאיר, לעזור לחלשים, לעזור לסובלים, לעזור לקהילה, ולהיות שם למען אלו שזקוקים לתמיכה ויד אוהבת. אנו המתנדבות של ויצו, העובדים והעובדות, לקחנו על עצמנו את האחריות להגשים את החזון הזה. כשאנו פועלים יחד וכשאנו יוזמים, כשאנו לוקחים אחריות, מגייסים כספים, מתאמצים ומבצעים את התפקידים שלנו כמיטב יכולתנו, אנו מאירים בתור תנועת ויצו, לאלו שמחפשים את האור. אינני יודעת כמה מכם יודעים את זה, אבל אני ניצולת שואה. בזמן המלחמה הייתי בת 2. במשך חודשים רבים התחבאנו במספור מתחת לאדמה. אני, אמא שלי ואחי, היינו בודדים בחשיכה, אינסופית. סכנת המוות אפפה אותנו מכל הכיוונים. אבל אמא שלי מצאה אור קטן. היא מצאה תקווה, והתקווה שלה החזיקה אותנו בחיים. הצלחנו לשרוד את השואה, ולבסוף עלינו לארץ ישראל. הצטרפתי לויצו בתחילת שנות ה-20 לחיי. הרגשתי חובה להתאמץ כדי לעזור לאלה שזקוקים לעזרה. מאז חלפו 57 שנים, כמעט 6 עשורים של עשייה בוויצו. כשהצטרפתי לוויצו, הייתי אמא צעירה עם 2 ילדים קטנטנים, ואני מסיימת את תפקיד הגזברית בתור סבתא לנכדים ולנינים, ברוך השם. בנוסף לעבודתי, זכיתי למלא בוויצו תפקידים רבים. הקמתי את קבוצות דור ההמשך בנתניה, גייסתי מאות מתנדבות, יזמתי עשרות פרויקטים של עזרה לקהילה, עסקתי בגיוס כספים ובהפקת אירועים. הייתי יושבת ראש סניף ויצו נתניה, מילאתי תפקידים בהנהלה של ויצו ישראל ובהנהלה של ויצו העולמית. ב8 השנים האחרונות, בהם הייתי בתפקיד גזברית, ליוויתי את הפעילות הפיננסית של ויצו בתקופות מאתגרות. הקורונה, מערכות בחירות חוזרות שגרמו לחוסר יציבות שלטונית, שינויים אסטרטגיים, התייעלות משמעותית בוויצו, החלפת מערכת ERP של הארגון, ולאחרונה המלחמה שגרמה לחוסר ודאות. את העשייה בוויצו הפכתי למשימת חיים. העיניים הדומעות של אמהות שסיפקנו מזון למשפחות שלהם, החיוכים של הילדים היתומים שהענקנו להם אהבה, והבעות הפנים של אלו שנגענו בהם לאורך השנים, נצרבו בליבי. זה היה שווה כל רגע, זה שווה כל מאמץ. אני אסירת תודה לויצו על שהעניקה לי את המסגרת הטובה והמבורכת לעשות למען הקהילה. העשייה בוויצו היא מפעל חיי. אני אמנם מסיימת את תפקידי בתור גזברית, אבל אני אמשיך להתנדב בוויצו בתור חברת ההנהלה, ואשמח להעניק לויצו כמיטב יכולתי וככל שאתבקש. ויצו חרוטה בליבי. משפחת ויצו, במעמד זה אני מתכבדת להציג בפניכם את התקציב לשנת 2024, שאושר בוועד המנהל ב-27 לדצמבר 2023. התקציב נבנה על בסיס תחזית אגף הכספים, ניסיון העבר ודיונים עם מירה מיניס המנכ"לית שעברה ביסודיות על כל סעיף וסעיף בתקציב, יחד עם אלה גאובר, מנהלת הכספים, ומלי ליפוביץ', מנהלת מחלקת תקציב ובקרה, ועם מנהלי האגפים לאחר שנעשו בו קיצוצים. הכנת התקציב חייבה התמודדות עם מחסור במקורות מימון לפעילות של ויצו, ועם המלחמה שגרמה לחוסר ודאות. לכן קידמנו את תוכנית התייעלות במטרה לצמצם את ההשתתפות של ויצו בתקציב. תוכנית ההתייעלות כללה צמצום פעילויות גאוניות, הפחתת ההוצאות כוח אדם, בעיקר במטה, ריכוז תחומי אחריות על מנת לחסוך בהוצאות, הפחתת עלויות של החזקת בית ויצו. להלן הנחות התקציב. ההתייקרויות בעלויות השכר אשר נלקחו בחשבון בהתאם להסכמי השכר החתומים בוויצו. התקציב לוקח בחשבון עלייה במשק בתעריפי מיסי הארנונה, חשמל, מים, מזון ועוד, אשר ויצו אינה מקבלת שיפוי בגינם. שכר המינימום צפוי לעלות בחודש אפריל, כחלק מתהליך שאמור להתרחש עד שנת 2026, בהתאם להחלטת הממשלה. הנושא נלקח בחשבון בתקציב 2024, ויש לציין שאין לנו שיפוי בגינו. שער החליפין המוערך בתקציב עומד על 3.6 שקלים לדולר, לעומת 3.47 בתקציב השנה הקודמת. האינפלציה הצפויה עומדת על 2.5%. דרישת רשם העמותות לתקציב מאוזן. אזכור כעת את התקציב המתוכנן לשנת 2024, לעומת התקציב של שנת 2023. מחזור ההוצאות הישירות של ויצו הינו 803.2 מיליון שקלים, בהשוואה ל-821.3 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. מחזור ההכנסות הישירות הינו 765.5 מיליון שקלים, בהשוואה ל-766.8 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. מקור ההכנסות הישירות בתקציב הינו ברובו מתשלומים המתקבלים מהשירותים אותם ויצו מספקת. לאור זה, ההשתתפות ויצו עומדת על כ-37.7 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 54.5 מיליון שקלים בתקציב השנה הקודמת. ההכנסות למימון ההשתתפות ויצו, ההכנסות ממכסות הפדרציה, הן 6.2 מיליון דולר, אשר לפי שער חליפין ממוצע של 3.6 שקלים לדולר, הן 22.4 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. יש לציין שבתקציב השוטף לא כלולות התרומות המיועדות מהפדרציות. במהלך שנת 2023 התקבלו מהפדרציות 10.9 מיליון דולר תרומות מיועדות, כאשר סכום זה כולל תרומות מיועדות בסך 5 מיליון דולר בגין המלחמה. אני מודה לכן, חברות הפדרציה היקרות, על המאמצים הכבירים שאתן עושות, על התמיכה, על האהבה ועל פעילותכן המבורכת. תודה רבה לכן מכל הלב. התקורה מתרומות מיועדות הינה בשיעור של 20%, המהווה 5 מיליון שקלים. זאת לעומת תקורה של 15% בשנה הקודמת, שהניבה 3.7 מיליון שקלים. השינוי בתקורה נעשה לאור הירידה בהכנסות במטרה לשמור על תקציב מאוזן ובתקווה להגדלת התרומות המיועדות. ההכנסה מתקורת בעלויות אגף החינוך מסתכם בסכום של 5.6 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 5.5 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. תקורות אלו משולמים על ידי כפרי הנוער בהתאם להוראות משרד החינוך. יעד גיוס הכספים בישראל עומד על 1.9 מיליון שקלים לטובת מימון הפעילות השוטפת. נכסים והשקעות בשנת 2024 ישנה הוצאה נטו של כ-0.2 מיליון שקלים, לעומת הכנסה של 3.4 מיליון שקלים אשתקד. סכום זה כולל גם את ההכנסות הצפויות בשנת 2024 מסחירויות בסך של כ-400,000 שקלים, מהגגות הסולריים בסך של 710,000 שקלים, מהמגע לטובה בסך של 100,000 שקלים. כמו כן, בסכום זה קוזזה ההשקעה של כ-1.4 מיליון שקלים עבור השבחת נכסים, אשר צפויים להניב הכנסות כבר ב-2025. ההכנסות ממימוש נכסים ועזבונות היא 3 מיליון שקלים. אזכור כעת את התקציב אגפי ויצו. התקציב כולל את עלויות הפיקוח, בתקציב השוטף לא כלולות התרומות המיועדות מהפדרציה, התקציב מוצג ללא התקורה העקיפה. תקציב האגף לגיל הרך משאיר עודף של 4.9 מיליון ש"ח, לעומת גירעון של 9.9 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. הנחת התקציב הינה שמספר הילדים במעונות יהיה 10,467 לעומת 11,992 ילדים בשנה הקודמת. מספר הילדים בשנת 2024 צפוי להיות נמוך יותר בכ-1,500 ילדים. תקציב אגף החינוך משאיר עודף של כ-0.9 מיליון שקלים, זאת לפני העברת תקורת בעלויות בסך של 5.6 מיליון שקלים. בתקציב האגף נכללו השקעות בכפרי הנוער ובתי הספר בסך של כ6 מיליון שקלים. תקציב הפדרציה הישראלית משאיר עודף של כ3.5 מיליון שקלים. זאת לעומת תקציב גירעוני בשנת 2023, שעלה לויצו כ1.2 מיליון שקלים. סכום גיוס הכספים נטו על ידי הפדרציה הישראלית הינו כ15.8 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 14 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. תקציב אגף מעמד האישה הינו 2 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 3.2 מיליון שקלים בשנה הקודמת. הקיטון נובע מהתוכנית תרומות מיועדות ומהתייעלות בהוצאות. תקציב בית הורים מסתכם בעודף של 3 מיליון שקלים בהשוואה לשנה הקודמת, והיה עודף של 894 אלפי שקלים. לפי התוכנית, בשנת 2024 צפויים להיות בבית ההורים 78 דיירים עצמאיים ו32 דיירים סיעודיים. גידול זה בכמות הדיירים מסתמך על מילוי הדירות החדשות שהורחבו בסוף שנת 2023. בהשקעה במערכת ERP תהיה בשנת 2024 כ5.3 מיליון שקלים. השתתפות ויצו בפעילות אגף לקשרי חוץ תעמוד על 4.1 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 4.6 מיליון שקלים בתקציב השנה הקודמת. הקיטון נובע מההתייעלות וצמצום תקציבי. הרזרבה הכללית ועתודות תפעול הן 3.5 מיליון שקלים. סך הכל השתתפות ויצו בעלויות התפעול מסתכמת ב8.2 מיליון שקלים, זאת לעומת השנה הקודמת בה ההשתתפות הייתה כ25 מיליון שקלים. אגפי מנהל ושירותים כוללים את הנהלת ויצו, כספים, מערכות מידע, נכסים, רכש, ביטוח, בינוי והחזקות, משאבי אנוש ורזרבה כללית. סך הכל השתתפות ויצו במנהל ושירותים הינה 29.6 מיליון שקלים, לעומת 29.2 מיליון שקלים בשנה שעברה. סכום זה מחולק ברובו בין יחידות התפעול כתקורה עקיפה. מנהל ושירותים מהווה 4% בתקציב ההוצאות הכולל, כדומה לשנים הקודמות. הצלחנו לעמוד ביעד חשוב זה בזכות תוכנית ההתייעלות, וזאת למרות ההתייקרויות במשק וההתייקרויות בעלויות השכר. אני רוצה להודות לכל מנהלי אגפים וליושבות הראש עבור המסירות וההשקעה הכבירה שלהם. על כן, כפי שציינתי קודם, ההשתתפות הכוללת של ויצו בתקציב אינה 37.7 מיליון שקלים. תקציב הפיתוח ממקורות פנימיים של ויצו הוא 17.8 מיליון שקלים. סכום זה כבר מגולם בתקציב השוטף. ויצו ממשיכה לבלוט בעשייה, ממשיכה להתחדש, להתמקצע ולהתאים את עצמה לעידן המודרני. פניה של ויצו אל העתיד. חרף כל האתגרים, אבל זכרו שהפעילות המגוונת של ויצו יקרה מאוד, וכדי לממן אותה ולאפשר לויצו להגשים את החזון שלה ולהאיר, עלינו לעשות מאמצים גדולים במלוא היצירתיות כדי לגייס כספים. חשוב לעשות כל מה שאפשר כדי להגדיל את ההכנסות של ויצו. בנוסף, עלינו לפעול להגדיל את מספר המתנדבות כדי להכין את דור העתיד. החברה הישראלית זקוקה יותר מתמיד לויצו חזקה, ועלינו מוטלת האחריות להמשיך לנווט את הספינה המיוחדת של ויצו אל חוף מבטחים. ביחד נצליח. לסיום, ברצוני להודות לעוסקים במלאכה, לאלה גאובר, מנהלת הכספים, על הרוח החדשה שהיא הביאה לתפקיד, על העשייה הנהדרת שלה, על המקצועיות והמסירות. למלי ליפוביץ', מנהלת מחלקת תקציב ובקרה, לרבקה ליבוביץ', מנהלת חשבונות ראשית, לרואה חשבון גיל זוהרי, חשב ויצו העולמית, ולכל צוות האגף הכספים. לחברותיי בוועדת הכספים, אסתר מור, אניטה פרידמן, מירה, אלה, תרצה, נילי, בת שבע, אהובה ודבורה, אני מודה לכן על המסירות וההתמדה. לחברות היקרות בהנהלה העולמית, לאורה ולחברות הנהלת ויצו ישראל, למירי פקין, יו"ר ועדת הביקורת וחברות הוועדה, לגלית, מנהלת הלשכה ומזכירת העמותה. תודה מיוחדת לנשיאות ולחברות הפדרציות של העשייה הברוכה שלכם. תודה רבה למירה אמינס, המנכ"לית, על ההובלה, המקצועיות והנחישות בניהול של ויצו. תודה רבה ליו"ר הנהלת ויצו העולמית, אניטה פרידמן, על המנהיגות המרשימה וההובלה של ויצו אל העתיד. ובהצלחה לנשיאה החדשה, ענת וידר. תודה, להתראות בקרוב בישראל.
כיושבת ראש היוצאת של ועדת הביקורת של העמותה, ובשם חברות הוועדה, אני מתכבדת למסור לכן את הדיווח התקופתי על עבודת ועדת הביקורת בשנת 2023. דיווח זה נעשה על רקע החלטת חברות ועדת הביקורת להתפטר מכהונתן ולסיים את תפקידן ערב האספה. אני מאחלת הצלחה למי שהאספה תבחר לכהן בוועדת הביקורת. בראשית דבריי איני יכולה שלא להתייחס למתקפת הטרור הרצחנית שנחשפנו לה ב7 באוקטובר. שלא מובן כיצד לב אנוש מסוגל לה. המלחמה שנכפתה עלינו משליכה על כל היבט בחיינו, השפעתה ניכרת גם על פעילות ויצו בכלל, לרבות פעילות הביקורת הפנימית, לה אתייחס בהמשך. אבקש להודות לכל העוסקות במלאכה. לחברות ועדת הביקורת, הגברת טלי קמינר והגברת עירית מקוב, ולמבקרים הפנימיים שלנו, רואי חשבון, אלי להט ומר זאב גרוס מפירמת RSM. תודתי נתונה גם לצוות העובדים ובעלי התפקידים בויצו, שהשקיעו משאבים וסבלנות כדי לסייע לביקורת ולהעמיד לרשותה את כל הנדרש לה. בלעדי חברותיי בוועדת הביקורת וצוות המבקר הפנימי, לא ניתן היה לקיים את הביקורת. למעלה מהדרוש להזכיר שוב, כי התנאי להצלחתה של הביקורת הפנימית בארגון היא ההירתמות של הנהלת הארגון ובעלי התפקידים בו להקשבה לצרכי הביקורת וליישום המלצותיה, והבנת חשיבותה של הביקורת. ההכרה של אניטה ומירה בחשיבות הביקורת הפנימית מאפשרות לנו ולמבקרים הפנימיים לבצע כיאות את עבודתנו. בנושא זה אני מבקשת לאשר לכם בסיפוק רב כי שביעות הרצון שיש לי כיושבת ראש הוועדה ממקומה של הביקורת בארגון היא גבוהה. במהלך שנת 2023 עסקה ועדת הביקורת בנושאים מהותיים ושונים אשר לרובם השפעה גבוהה מאוד על התפקוד הנאות והמשך ההתקדמות העמותה והקטנת חשיפות להן היא חשופה. בין שאר הנושאים שטיפלה ועדת הביקורת הפנימית בשנת 2023 היה ביצוע ביקורות בנושאי הליבה הבאים: אגף הגיל הרך, אגף הבינוי, ביקורת פתע של קופות בסניפים, משאבי אנוש, שכר ודיני עבודה, רכש והתקשרויות המטה, ממשל תאגידי, מעקב יישום המלצות מדוחות ביקורת קודמים, בקרות כספיות ויצו ישראל, הטמעת מערכת האורקל, ביקורת שתושלם ב-2024. לאור מצב החירום ומגבלת כוח אדם שנובעת ממנו, ובעצה אחת עם הנהלת הארגון, דחתה ועדת הביקורת מספר ביקורות משנת 2023 לשנת 2024. יחד עם זאת, דווקא בשעת חירום, כאשר הגורם האנושי הינו בחסר וקיימים איומים על הארגון, נדרשת פעילות ביקורת פנימית הדוקה יותר, שתתריע על חשיפות ותאיר זוויות אחרות של פעילות הארגון. הוועדה דנה בנושאים שוטפים הנוגעים לניהול העמותה ותפקודה בשעת המשבר, לרבות תקציב העמותה לשנת 2024. כמו כן, כמדי שנה, הוועדה דנה והמליצה בספטמבר 2023 לאשר את הדוחות הכספיים והמילוליים של העמותה לשנת 2022. ועדת הביקורת שמחה לדווח כי הנהלת העמותה משתפת ומבקשת התייחסותה של ועדת הביקורת לתהליכים ולנושאים שוטפים וחריגים שעולים לעת ומדגיש את שיתוף הפעולה החיובי בין ההנהלה לוועדת הביקורת. שנת 2024 שעומדת בפתח מאתגרת אותנו, ועדת הביקורת, את המבקר הפנימי ואת כלל הארגון. בנימה אישית, ויצו קיבל אותי לפני למעלה מ8 שנים בתפקיד יושבת ראש ועדת הביקורת, והיה לי לבית שני. אני מודה על התקופה המרתקת ומלאת הערכה לארגון ולעבודת הקודש שנעשית על ידו. אין לי ספק שאתגעגע, בברכה ותודה רבה.
Mira, Gila, and Miri, I now open the floor to your questions. I will explain how this works. If you want to ask a question, write your full name on the word question in the chat function. And I will wait for a few minutes to see if anything is happening. Yael and Galit and Dani, if there are any questions. Or you can raise your hands. We have with us, Ella Gauber has joined us, our CFO, and she will answer any questions that you have regarding the budget. Gila, of course, is here, and our CEO as well. So any questions, we will gladly answer. Any questions? They will open the Zoom for the person. Who is asking? Alegre Smeke. Alegre, please go ahead.
No. I just want to thank you, everyone, hearing this, Anita.
We can't hear you. 1 minute, Alegre. 1 second. Eli, we can't hear Alegre. It's speak again. Speak again, Alegre, please.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, better.
No. I have a question. I don't want to ask Gila and everybody that I cannot feel more out of this organization, of this meeting, all the information you give us, the work you do, all to empower us all this. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Alegre. It gives us strength here. Anyone else with a question regarding the budget, the plans? Yael, Galit, anybody else? Okay. I think if you have any questions, of course, you can write an email to us and we will respond. We received an email today which we will respond presently. You can always ask questions after the date as well. Okay, so now we begin with the statutory approvals. We will now move to the voting. Excuse me. The voting will be conducted by a Zoom poll, which you will see on your screen. Please note that each federation is entitled to 1 vote each, okay? So I ask all the presidents and chairpersons of the federations to vote for the principles of the budget and work plans for 2024. Please vote. Budget and work plans for 2024.
אני לא יכולה להצביע בעצם.
רגע,
אני לא צריכה?
אנחנו במיוט?
לא. אנחנו לא במיוט. Okay, Galit, you let us know when everybody has, and you give us the result, please. Okay, we're giving you some time. You have 20 seconds to complete the first vote, the first approval. Okay. Galit, can you tell me? Unanimous, it was approved unanimously. Thank you. We will now vote to approve our external auditors, PwC, Kesselman and Kesselman. They are the same ones we've been working for the past, I don't know how many years? Few years, at least 10 since I'm here. They're true partners of World WIZO. Please, go ahead with the voting. Galit? Galit? What happened? Okay, now you can proceed to vote for our external auditors, PwC, Kesselman and Kesselman. You can scroll down and you'll see this specific one, the second one, the next one. If you scroll, you'll see it.
There are just 4 questions. There are 4 items.
There's only 4 items. So we're on the second item, the approval of our external auditors, PwC, Kesselman and Kesselman. That's item number 2. Now we're going, did they finish? Galit, what's going on? You let me know when they're done with this item, and we will go to the third item.
Now they're scrolling down, and they question number 3.
Wait, number 2, what was the result? Unanimous approval? Okay, unanimous approval for the approval number 2. Now number 3, item number 3, I would like you to approve our audit committee. Iris Shapira Yalon, Nili Ser Ruven, and Ariela Persky. Please vote. Scroll to the third one.
I don't see.
Can you scroll as well?
No lo veo en la pantalla.
Scroll to number 3. And when you're done, Galit, you let me know, and I'll continue with number 4. Go. What is the result? 19-4 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay. Our next vote is on the procedure concerning missions and reimbursements. As in every year, and the older ones among us remember this, and as required by Israeli law, we need to approve the missions and reimbursement procedure. Members of the executive on missions abroad, the president and the chairperson undertake missions to WIZO federations and to international organizations abroad as needs arise. The approval of each official mission must be given by the World WIZO executive. Every official invitation must be sent to the World WIZO chairperson, who will bring it for approval before the World WIZO executive. Other members of the World WIZO executive may undertake official missions abroad after an official invitation is sent to the World WIZO chairperson, who will bring it to approval before the World WIZO executive. Members of the executive are entitled to reimbursement for official missions. A committee considers each request and must approve the amount and the nature of the expenses. So, the vote is reimbursement. Members of the executive are entitled to reimbursement for official missions. A committee considers each request and must approve the amount of the essence of the expenses. Please vote. This is number 4. You have to scroll down and vote. That we have 30 more seconds to vote.
Sorry, but we don't see anything on the screen.
Sorry?
It doesn't appear on the screen.
Under 4, you have to scroll down, and there's a 4th item. Reimbursements.
It does not show on the screen.
Galit, doesn't show.
Galit.
Not 3 and not 4.
They're having a problem seeing it.
It doesn't show on the screen.
They say it doesn't.
Number 3 or number 4?
They say number 3 and number 4 don't show on the screen.
No, and we didn't vote.
Can you scroll down?
Nothing to scroll on.
They say nothing to scroll on. On the side of the square, you see a little gray line. Click on that and scroll down with that gray line. It will bring you to number 3 and number 4. Technical issues. If someone is having a hard time, Galit, you can put it on the chat that you're having a hard time, and Galit will send you an email where you can return the email with a favor, against, or abstention. Okay? Shelley is raising her hand. Shelley, do you have a question?
No, I can't see anything on the screen. On the screen. The first two.
The first two, yes. The other two, no. Do you see on the right-hand side a gray line on the square? And then if you click on that and go down, it scrolls down?
No. No.
Okay. As I said, if you're having, you can write on the chat, and Galit will send you immediately an email for your approval. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. You can write in the chat also if you're, it's not a secret ballot anyway, so they're telling me here they're telling us that you can write it on the chat if you're for or against number 3 and number 4. If you want, I'll go back to reading you what number 3 was and number 4. Anybody needs again? It's so hard, I can't see you, so. Okay. What is the status? Okay, thank you, Shelley. And Suzanne, who was having also trouble with the last 2 ones.
Sorry, I don't.
Okay, so Suzanne, either you can write in the chat if you're for or against or abstain, or if you prefer, Galit will send you an email and you can respond to that email, whatever you prefer. Okay? Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, please finish. Of course, we have Gil Ashkenazi here behind the computers, making sure that the vote is being according to the law, that all is in order. You let me know when you have all the results. That already said.
Tienes aquí a la mano.
For what? Audit committee, 24-4, 1 abstain. And number 3 for PwC was, yeah. And the reimbursement? 25-4, 26-4, and 1 abstention. Okay. So for the protocol, I'm told to say everything was approved. Thank you very much. Well, my friends, it's been 2 amazing hours filled with speeches and updates and all kinds of little videos that you can use. So that concludes the voting and the statutory part of the MOR. What can I tell you? I miss you guys. I hope next year we can see each other face to face and celebrate. And thank you for attending the 2024 MOR. I look forward to see you here in Israel and pray that we may be able to meet in person again next year. Am Israel Chai. Amen. And we're going to sing the Hatikva, all of us together, as we usually do.
נפש יהודי